an original MCM production.
Hello, my name is Martha Love, and this is MATA Community Media. And what we're doing today is we're interviewing candidates that are running in the 2016 cycle. Today we have our Alderman, Bauman, who has been an alderman in the 4th District for a period of time. Matter of fact, he's my former alderman, and believe me, we were absolutely just intrigued to have him because he's so hands-on. So, Bob, how are you?
Excellent. Thank you, Martha, for that introduction, and it's an honor to be here as always. I love MATA, and I've supported MATA over the years now, 25 years that they've been in operation.
Correct. And you have also, first of all, tell me about your district.
Sure. Well, the 4th District is maybe the most diverse district in the city of Milwaukee. It comprises all the Central Business District, the historic 3rd Ward, portions of Prospect Avenue where there's a lot of high-rise apartment buildings and high-end condominium projects. I have 2 major universities. MSOE has about 2,000 students. Marquette University has about 11,000 students, and about 8,000 of whom either live on campus or in the off-campus neighborhoods, which are also part of my district. And then the near west side is comprised of basically 5 neighborhoods, which are traditional single-family homes, duplexes, fair amount of multi-unit buildings along Wells Street, Wisconsin Avenue, but 5 neighborhoods on the west side: Merrill Park, Concordia, Cold Spring Park, Midtown, and Avenues West. So those tend to be a little more poverty in those neighborhoods, to say the least, although there is pockets of home ownership and middle-class folks. Very diverse racially on the west side, whereas downtown tends to be more majority population. And of course, the student body is the student body. You know, that comes and goes every 3 or 4 years.
Right,
there's constant turnover and constant recycling of those residents.
Well, you know, one thing for sure, Bob, you clearly support the residents of the 4th Aldermanic District. I see you everywhere. For an example, it's great that neighbors to neighborhoods, which is one of the sponsors, is Harley-Davidson and several other corporations,
right,
you know, in the West Side area, right, there. And I attend those meetings because they're extremely informative. They talk about crime trends. They talk about a number of economic development efforts that take place. That's with Keith Stanley,
right,
who is the executive director of, is that Avenues West?
Well, it's actually good. I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, I've lived in the neighborhood in the district for 29 years and in the Concordia neighborhood, 29th and Kilbourne, for 19 years. So I have very familiar with the area. And of course, I've been alderman for 12. Mm-hmm. And what I think you're speaking to is the Near West Side Partners Initiative, which is an effort that I've been trying to get off the ground really for the last decade, because it was apparent to me that if the West Side was going to flourish and prosper, has many assets, still has many large employers, it has some very historic neighborhoods with great housing stock, it has great transportation options, freeway access, multiple bus lines going east-west, north-south, easy proximity to downtown Milwaukee. It's very easy to get downtown for sporting events or social occasions or jobs. So it has tremendous assets, but it has challenges. It has pockets of high crime, pockets of drug dealing and drug activity and illegal activity of that sort. And that has kept, like this weight has been pushing down on these neighborhoods and holding them back. And I always thought that what we needed was a collaboration between some of the major employers, Marquette University, Harley-Davidson, Miller Coors, Aurora Healthcare, who has Sinai Samaritan, of course, at 12th and State, and Forest County Potawatomi, last but not least, who not only have the casino right in the valley adjacent to the Avenues West neighborhood, but they have now taken over possession of the former Concordia College,
right,
and they're doing a major reinvestment in that facility, both in terms of renovated buildings for commercial use and office space and rental property, as well as offices for the tribe, casino offices, and they have invested in a brand new data center, a state-of-the-art data storage facility, which They're marketing now to corporations around the world to
Right.
store data. Major investment, $33 million investment right there at 33rd and State. So I figured we have to get these private sector players because the city, with its budget constraints and with the citywide challenges that exist, the city's just not going to have the resources to pour into one neighborhood. We're going to have to get the private sector to step up. They have stepped up. We've formed the Near West Side Partners Initiative. The Neighborhood of Neighborhoods meeting that you refer to, which is held every month at Harley-Davidson, is one aspect of that initiative. Another is what they call the Park Campaign, which promoting assets, reducing crime. That initiative has funded additional police overtime for bicycle and foot patrols on the Near West Side. It has funded a dedicated community prosecutor, actual assistant district attorney, whose principal function is to focus on crime and disorder and cases that originate from the Near West Side neighborhoods. Additional promotion of branding of the neighborhood, trying to change the perception around the city and around the region that there is great potential in this area. Look to it as a possible source for investment, both residential, commercial, office. And so it's just gotten off the ground. It's been up and running now, but a year and a half officially, but it takes time to gear up these kinds of activities. So I'd say really this next summer, we're going to see some significant forward motion with the initiative, and just one of many initiatives on sort of the crime and social front. Certainly the efforts that the city has undertaken through the Great Recession. I hear a lot of discussion in the community about, well, all you do is invest downtown. All these big buildings and all these luxury apartments and fancy hotels and all the money's going downtown, it's not helping the neighborhoods. And I understand that argument, because visually I can see why people can reach that perception. But I have a couple of answers which I think at least put it all in context, and then people can choose can still have whatever opinion they like.
And that's true. And
Right.
as you talk about the Potawatomis, a lot of people did not want the whole gambling entertainment aspect, but the Potawatomis are so gracious, and they remember where they came from.
Absolutely.
And they have put millions of dollars in neighborhoods. They've invested in kids' social programs.
Yes.
Millions, I mean millions. They've been around about 16 years now, or maybe longer, the foundation. And they must have spent already in this state some $41 million.
Oh yes, they walk the walk.
Assisting the people. So
Yes.
you can really follow their money.
Yes, they walk the walk. It's not just talk to them.
Right.
It's not just a bunch of lip service to kind of gloss over the gambling
Right.
thing. They do deliver for the community. They have pumped a lot of money into nonprofit organizations and social
Correct.
service organizations, not to mention having the most diverse workforce in the state of Wisconsin.
That's true.
Without question.
That's true.
You go down to that casino, and it is remarkable how diverse the workforce is, and there is not an employer in the state that has demonstrated as strong a commitment to diversity as the Forest County Potawatomi. Yes,
And I
it's gambling,
understand,
but
yeah, it's entertainment. It's,
Right.
it's part of the
good way to put it.
portfolio of the state if you
Right.
look at tourism.
Right.
And what I also like about getting back to neighbors to neighborhoods, they have a summer tour. They have an initiative where they, as you indicated, they are encouraging businesses to move in there because they want to create a walk to work for families.
Yes.
So that families have an
Absolutely.
opportunity to spend time together.
Yes.
Just like you, Bob, you have encouraged your colleagues to help residents of the city to get jobs on a lot of this major construction.
Right. Well, you're referring to the Moore Ordinance,
Yes.
which was passed in 2009. Alderman Hamilton was the lead sponsor. I was one of the co-sponsors. And two major pieces of the Moore Ordinance are directly addressed to the job creation issue. One is the resident preference program.
Yes.
Basically, it requires that on all city contracts, public works contracts, repairing infrastructure, repairing streets, sewers, water lines, 40% of the workforce of the private contractor
Right.
has to be a resident of the city who was previously unemployed, underemployed. What was significant about the Moore Ordinance is we also extended that 40% requirement to private development projects where the city had $1 million or more in public subsidy. And that could come in many forms. Tax incremental financing is most obvious, but also more subtle ways like discounted land sales, revenue bonds, any type of city assistance that added up to $1 million or more, that private development would also have to employ 40% of the workers who would have to be city residents, previously unemployed, underemployed. Northwest Mutual, great example of how that program has worked. That's the $450 million tower. That is a big building, big tower crane. Everybody can see it almost from all over the city. You can see that building going up. It's going to be an iconic structure. Through the last reporting period, they've employed 355 workers under the resident preference program. 355. That's a lot of jobs going to city residents who were previously unemployed or underemployed.
And men and women.
Yes,
throughout
absolutely.
this entire community. And some of the wages start at like $19 an hour.
Oh, these are all building trades.
Right.
And many of these people will get an entry into the building trades through apprentice programs. And once they become journeymen in these various trades, and there's tremendous opportunity for people living in the city, and particularly young men of color, but women as well,
right,
is that a lot of these building trades are aging out. Their workforces are getting older, they're retiring, and there's not, and the people coming up demographically tend to be much more reflective of the city as a whole than back in the 50s and 40s and 60s.
Right.
The other major piece of the Moore Ordinance was the Emerging Business Enterprise Program.
Yes.
And that is where development projects that get $1 million or more of city financing have to employ 25% emerging business enterprises for their contractors. NML has already awarded $105 million to emerging business enterprises on just that one building.
Mm-hmm.
And most of these are minority-owned firms, and many of them employ people of color. So
right,
I think that is a huge win-win, and that's just one project. The arena is going to have the same 40% requirement. A lot of
yes,
controversy about the arena. You know, should the public sector be subsidizing billionaires from New York, and very legitimate issues there. But the fact of the matter is, we did see that arena as a job creating opportunity,
correct,
as a job training opportunity, as an economic development opportunity. It will create thousands of employment, of construction jobs at minimum, a lot of permanent jobs as well in the different businesses and entertainment venues that will be created. And we thought our $47 million investment was worth the risk given the opportunities for economic development, job creation, and expanding the city's tax base. Reasonable people can disagree about the arena. I understand the arguments on both sides. It was tough writing that check for billionaires that could have paid $47 million out of petty cash. But the bottom line is, from the perspective of the city, investing in that new facility, keeping the bucks, I thought was, at the end of the day, in the public interest because of the job creating
right,
potential.
And you know, sometimes we have people that create that kind of negative environment. And when that environment becomes so negative, small business suffer.
Right.
Because small businesses that are hired on these major projects, and there have been many.
Yes.
Many small businesses. They make very, very, very good money.
Yes.
Very good money. And then they're able to pay their staff $20, $25
Right. Well,
an
that's
hour
the
for their
multiplier
services.
effect. That's
right,
how it's supposed to work. You
right,
invest at the front end, and businesses employ other businesses who buy goods and services, who encourage others to buy goods, and it's the multiplier effect of an investment at the top
right,
that reverberates through the economy. And that's hard to see that unless you're involved in it. So to the general public, they just see big buildings downtown. And they don't
but you know,
understand
Bob, a
the
lot
job
of that
creation
is
that comes along
a
with
lot
that.
of that is manufactured. It's created to be something negative, because you hear it time and time again. One person can start something negative like that,
right,
and it just kind of snowballs.
Oh yes.
And then it stops growth. For an example, over with Keith Stanley, what's that particular bid with Keith Stanley?
Well, that's the Avenues West bid.
Avenues West
right,
bid. The tourism that they're creating in that area, working with the chair of Neighbors to Neighborhoods, is outstanding. I happened to see, I went over there one day and here they were having this tour. I was wondering, my gosh, what's going on? It was a tour. It had been talked about at one of the meetings. So with Stanley's love, the corporation's love for the city of Milwaukee, Bob, I need to ask you, what is your love for the city of Milwaukee? Because you do quite a bit in the district.
Well, I just have a passion for all aspects of this city, from its history to its architecture to its Great climate? No, just I do like seasons. I
Yeah.
do like seasons. I don't know if I could take, I say this only half tongue-in-cheek, Los Angeles climate or San Diego climate,
Yeah.
although those are pretty nice climates. I love the people of Milwaukee, and I'm not a native of Milwaukee. I didn't grow up here. I mean, I grew up in Chicago, and I came here for college at Marquette, and I basically stayed on because I really fell in love with the friendliness and the openness and the helpfulness and the generosity that Milwaukeeans have as part of their DNA for whatever reason. I don't see it in other cities. I don't see the same level of friendliness and openness and willingness to give directions, willingness to help out a stranger. And that's still prevalent. That still pertains today. I don't see that changing significantly. So that's kind of the passion. And then the passion for the city's historic neighborhoods. There's so much value in these historic neighborhoods that I hate to see the demolitions, I hate to see the foreclosures and the abandoned buildings. So we've just undertaken major efforts. I mean, since 2009, when the Great Recession began, the city has invested nearly $70 million in foreclosure mitigation and neighborhood revitalization over and above our normal program. We've normally had the block grant programs and other programs that dealt with neighborhood revitalization, but since 2009, there's been an additional $70 million invested in a whole host of programs, ranging from the rent-to-own program, the rehab to rent program, home buyer assistance loan program, code compliance loan program, the strong home loan program, which basically provides home improvement loans to existing homeowners so they can perform major repairs because the recession has knocked out the equity in their property. So we have tried to address the multiple aspects of this foreclosure crisis to prop up existing homeowners, to keep them in their homes so they don't fall into foreclosure and the house becomes blighted, and to deal with those that have already been abandoned either through renovation or through, unfortunately, demolition in some cases, and then redevelopment of vacant lots as much as we can.
But that's rare with the demolition, especially in your area. So you live in the 27th and State area, State Street area?
Right. 29th and Kilbourne. So yeah, 27th and State is very close by. And
that was a pretty famous area a long time ago when the beer barons
well, Highland Boulevard especially. There's still some of those mansions, and then that's what I call them. They're true mansions. They're 7, 8, 10,000 square foot homes.
Right.
Built 1890s, early 20th century. Some of them are still standing. None of them are used for homes anymore.
Right.
But they are used for offices and schools and other uses. But their exterior beauty is still there, and they've been preserved in many cases as both functioning buildings as well as a legacy to the past of Milwaukee.
And I noticed on 34th and Highland, there's a police station.
Well, that's a Potawatomi investment. They acquired that corner, which was a former nursing home, and on the site there was one house, not a mansion. It's a relatively small house, maybe 1,800, 2,000 square feet. Very nice architecture. It's got tile roof, kind of Spanish-style architecture. And so this house came along with this acquisition of the nursing home. The nursing home they tore down, built a surface parking lot, which is very nicely landscaped.
Yeah.
The house they retained as sort of a neighborhood clubhouse, if you will. They make it available for the police. They make it available for community groups to meet. The dining room, living room has been converted into like a conference room, and there's a big table and chairs in there. And there's other space for the police to sit and do reports and just to come in out of the cold and make phone calls or do whatever paperwork they need to do. So really it's a house that they have made available for police, neighborhood organizations. I know the Cold Spring Park Neighborhood Association has their regular board meetings at that building.
Oh, how nice.
So it is, again, an amenity that the Potawatomi are making available to the community as a whole at their expense.
And that's always good. So you and I were at the same meeting when we met the new police captain at the 3rd District. So what were some of your observations of some of the things that she had to say?
Well, she has really big shoes to fill.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the previous captain, Jason Smith, was outstanding.
Yes.
He was a great communicator. I think he was truly dedicated to the neighborhoods, at least the neighborhoods in my district, to public safety and to interacting with the community and to enlisting the support of the community in improving public safety. He was a good police officer in a technical sense, as far as I could tell. And his retirement and move to the Department of Corrections was unfortunate for the city. We lost a true champion. Captain Boston Smith, different Smith. That's
isn't that amazing?
Shantae Boston Smith is her name. She is new to the district. There obviously is going to be a learning curve. But I have full confidence that the chief knows her skill set and knows her capabilities, and wouldn't have put her there if he didn't think she could do the job.
Well, already she has met with several neighborhood associations.
Yes.
We will be meeting with her tomorrow.
Excellent.
And we will then, discuss with her a community plan about crime and intervention and some plans that she also has. She also has been to our human trafficking task force.
Yes, very important.
And her, along with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI and Don Jones, who deals with a lot of the trafficking throughout the city and state.
Right.
So she had a chance to interact with all of those folks. So she has been very active. Clearly, she won't fill Jason Smith's shoes, but she comes as creative as Captain Jason Smith
Everybody
was.
has their own style, and,
Right.
and obviously, it's the one constant in life is change. Nobody's going to be permanently in any job. There's going to be change, and you just have to adapt and work cooperatively. And in the end, if you have people of skill and dedication with passion for the job, she's going to do a fine job.
And that's true. And what I do like specifically about the community crime meetings, they tell us about the trends, then they also teach us how we can keep ourselves safe. And you've been a part of all of that kind of happening. So just give me some of your thoughts about some of the crime trends and some of the things that have happened.
Crime is, you obviously have to deal with, to me, you deal with crime on several levels, or the broader subject of public safety. Obviously, you need law enforcement to deal with law breaking. But I think the major thrust of the city, at least me as an alderperson, my major thrust is to deal with the causes of crime.
Right.
Because I think crime is primarily a symptom of various issues: lack of early childhood socialization and education, lack of education generally, lack of opportunity, lack of economic security. I don't think it's not most people's preference to rob and pillage.
No,
if they could earn a living the legal way. I mean, I really believe that. I mean, I did criminal defense. I've dealt with many defendants in the system, and I have to tell you, they weren't all inherently evil people.
Right.
They were basically either fairly uneducated people with not good work records and maybe not particularly responsible people, but they weren't evil people.
Right.
And in fact, once they're caught and sitting in the house of correction or the jail downtown, they're fairly contrite people.
Right.
And I think that how do we avoid people getting to this point where they make these choices?
Right.
And that is why, from our standpoint as a common council, who doesn't have much control over the police, as you know, under state law, the police have wide discretion to utilize their resources. We basically send them money through the budget, and how they police, who staffs what, how they deploy their resources, what tactics they use, pretty much up to them. We can suggest, we have no power to command. In other areas of economic development and job creation, neighborhood revitalization, we do have the power to command.
Correct.
And that is where I have focused my energy, is on the economic development side, the job creation, the neighborhood revitalization, in the hope that by addressing these root causes of crime, we can maybe affect the symptom, namely public safety and disorder.
And that's true. And you also have been very effective with taking people that have maybe been a part of committing crimes and acquiring a felon. You've also indicated that a part of these private contractors that come in that want to continue to build up our city, they pretty much should consider hiring people that do have felonies.
Not only that, you're 100% right, but we actually have a program which I've been pushing for literally 6 years, and that's the deconstruction program.
Okay.
We're going to demolish a lot of houses. Some are beyond repair. There's two ways to demolish properties. The traditional way is the city issues a contract to a contractor. They bring in a big backhoe, big machine. There's one guy running the machine, another guy with a hose spraying down the dust. The house is knocked down in a day. They pile everything into a dump truck, drives off to the dump, dumps the debris. City pays a tipping fee, job done. Another way to do it is to have individual people out there at a job site taking a house apart board by board by hand with crowbars and hammers and pry bars, salvaging the wood, avoiding the tipping fees and landfilling costs, and creating jobs. A deconstruction project can generate about 10 jobs for a week. Last year we did 16 deconstructions, 50 permanent jobs, paying $12.50 an hour under an agreed upon rate. So we salvage the building materials, we avoid the landfill tipping fees, we employ people, and we give people usable skills, because there's no better way to learn how a house is built than to take one apart.
That's true.
And what is most striking about that program, we use a lot of community development corporations to do that work. Northcott Neighborhood House is one, Wisconsin Community Services is another. They have specifically targeted their hiring at ex-offenders. So most of the people doing this deconstruction at a living wage are in fact ex-offenders who we know have difficulty finding employment. And so we're trying to make a dent in that problem. If it were up to me, most of our demolitions would be deconstruction.
Right.
But there's a budgetary concern, and we have give and take with the mayor's office and the budget office, and of course my colleagues as well, because they have priorities. And so that's the legislative process. There's this give and take and compromise. If we're up to me, if I were the king, we would do all our demolitions via deconstruction because of the savings, the environmental benefits, and the job creation benefits.
Well, Bob Bauman, it's been Alderman Bauman. It has been an absolutely wonderful opportunity to speak with you today. And I certainly hope that people will come out on April 5th, 2016, and cast their vote. Voting is absolutely critical. We have a lot of things on the ballot this year to vote for.
Absolutely.
So, is there anything else you would just like to say, leave with the audience?
No, I just want to thank you for years of community service and good questions, good dialogue, and thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to MATA. Glad they're still here.
Yes, I am too.
They provide a great community service. You wouldn't get this kind of opportunity on network TV or on any of the major stations to lay out in some detail some of the issues facing the city and some of the programs the city has put together to address them. So thank you for that opportunity.
And thank you. And I really want the community to know that we are all volunteers. We've had just a large number of men and women to come and interview candidates. And we do it because we love TV, and we love to interview candidates so that the community can understand what it is they're doing and give them some choices in terms of who they should vote for. Thank you, Bob Bauman, 4th Aldermanic District.
Thank you.
With that, this is Martha Love. I've been the interviewer, and it's been a great privilege for me to interview Alderman Bob Bauman. We'll see you later.
An MCM production.